Thor, universally accepted to be the seventh member of the Avengers, Nordic god, savior of the known universe, Cold War veteran addicted to morphine, known to suffer from drug-induced hallucinations. Welcome to Cinema Skeptic, where we take a skeptical look inside your favorite movies. I'm hoping that most of you are already familiar with what Thor is. Thor, which I think it came out in 2011, is one of Disney's most recent attempts to extract money through the American people through the concept it likes to call the cinematic universe. The widely accepted plot of Thor is as follows. Thor's this Nordic god thing, and he's off in his own little palace, temple, space island called Asgard. And the Asgard people mess stuff up for themselves sometimes, and because of this, Thor is shot down to Earth, where he's exiled. Meanwhile, during his exile, this Loki dude, who I think is Thor's brother, he kind of goes crazy. And so the people of Asgard have to try to protect themselves from Thor or something. And so they end up needing Thor's help. And so what that involves is going back to get Thor, and in the meantime causing all sorts of problems for the people on Earth. However, over here at Cinema Skeptics, we know not to take our movies at face value. So we're going to discard our sheep minds and don our wolf hats and really figure out what the brilliant mind of Kenneth Branagh is the director of Thor, was wanted to tell us, wanted to communicate to us through Thor. So the movie starts off fairly typically. Natalie Portman and her band of, I think they're supposed to be scientists, are driving across New Mexico looking for the next cheap thrill. Things are going all right for them until Natalie Portman runs into someone while driving. They get out of the car to check him out, and from that point we have a first shot of our hero, or anti-hero. It's important to note where they find this guy. They're in New Mexico. I think we all know what association we can have with New Mexico. Let me give you a hint. Where did Breaking Bad take place? I mean, I'm not one to cast stereotypes, but New Mexico is known as the drug capital of the world for a reason. After witnessing this remarkable showmanship of bad driving, we cut to this interstellar battle sequence. This battle's between these Nordic characters, which are supposedly Thor's family, and the other side are these blue giant things. Now, there's something very important to note about these giant things, and there it is, right there. The key to understanding these dream sequences, because that's what they are, these visions of Asgard are not reality. This is not what's going on. These are dream sequences. And the first key to understanding these dream sequences are the snow giants. When directors want to make you aware of a specific attribute of a character, they pay close attention to what they show you first about the character. Looking at this frame right here, and by the way, this is the first frame we see of these frost giant dudes, the snow giants. We see one element being drawn out beyond all the other elements, and it's the eyes. It's the color of the eyes we're being shown. And the eyes are red. And red is a very important historical color. Who in history is most represented by red? The answer is easy. It's the Soviets. And this is what we need to know about the dream sequence. The snow giants are the Soviets. This is actually a remarkably bold portrayal of symbolism. It's funny because not only are the snow giants red, but they're also snow giants, and Russia is the coldest country in the world. I mean, it's so blatantly obvious. It's upsetting that Disney thought they could sneak it past us. But don't worry, it gets better. Now that we're armed with this new insight into the movie, we have to kind of reconstruct the plot. So anything that happens in this Asgard realm, you have to throw that to the beginning of the movie. So all Asgard sequences are pulled from Thor's memories, and they're hallucinations. And who knows when they're actually happening, but they're Thor's recollections of his time in the Cold War as a soldier of fortune in the Cold War. I don't know exactly what his role is, but his time in the Cold War. And then anything that takes place on Earth in present day, that's the latter half of the movie. This scene right here is another good example of how this is Thor's memories. So he's being sworn into, in the movie, into becoming a king. In actuality, Thor is remembering being sworn into military service. And I think the king dude, played by a guy, that's Ronald Reagan. I mean, here's a picture from side by side. They don't look too similar, but look what happens when I remove the color from the picture of that guy. The resemblance is striking. Directors pick actors for a reason, and that guy was not chosen for his acting ability. From this point, we come back to the perspective of Thor on Earth. Thor's been taken to a hospital by Natalie Portman and friends, and here we can see him being extremely agitated by the fact that he has needles in his arm. You see, Thor has just kicked his morphine addiction, and so he's extremely upset because he's now going to have to suffer under the curse of morphine again. You also see how strong Thor is. I mean, he's fighting off like 30 security guards with no resistance whatsoever. Watch this. Thor gets stabbed with this needle, and this needle immediately incapacitates him. I took the liberty of enhancing the shot for us, and you can see very clearly on the needle Narcan. Now, for those of you who don't know, Narcan is a opiate antidote which is used to suppress symptoms of opiates like morphine. And so when these doctors stabbed Thor with the Narcan needle, they removed his opiate symptoms, causing him to lose his quote superhuman unquote strength, and thus he collapses on the floor. A little while after this occurrence, Natalie Portman and friends are leaving the hospital when they back into Thor. Thor walks straight behind the car. What kind of sane grown man gets hit by a car twice in the space of, 3 days? Let's take a second and glance at the symptoms for a morphine addiction. In my entire life, I don't think I've ever seen anyone act as confused as Thor acts on a daily basis, so I think we have our answer here, folks. After Natalie Portman succeeds in hitting Thor with her car for a second time, she takes Thor back to her place. And take a second and examine Thor's muscular tones. This is not a man who has spent his life not using his muscles. This is clearly the body of a man who has spent some time fighting Soviets in the Cold War. And I think that's exactly who Thor really is. Also, from this vantage point, you can see the needle marks all over his arm from his continuous years of opiate addiction. Fast forward a little bit in the movie, and we have this remarkably telling conversation between Natalie Portman and this old man.
But he's promising nothing at first.
He's delusional. Listen to what he's saying. He's talking about Mjolnir and Thor and Bifrost. It's the stories I grew up with as a child.
I'm just gonna drive him. That's it.
He's dangerous, Jane.
Some of you may recognize this man immediately as a Shakespearean fool. A Shakespearean fool is a character in a film or traditionally a play that would look foolish and maybe be funny, but would actually provide valuable insight into the meaning of the play, and often straight into the director's mind. This old man directly and explicitly tells us who Thor is in this story. Listen to this.
But he's promising nothing at first.
He's delusional.
Not only does this old man play the role of the Shakespearean fool by giving us insight into the director's mind, he looks like the frickin' director. I don't know how Kenneth Branagh could have made this any more obvious for us. He's practically screaming, "This movie isn't about Nordic gods, it's about drug addiction!" Fast forwarding a bit, we see another sign of drug addiction, specifically in the symbolism of the shape of this building. What does this look like? Looks to me like a pretty close approximation of the vascular system around the heart. And where is morphine injected? Into your bloodstream. So Thor runs around this facility for a bit and then he gets captured. And he's interrogated by this FBI-looking dude. And the FBI-looking dude asks Thor a question, which Thor has an interesting response to.
Why don't you tell me where you received your training? Pakistan? Chechnya? Afghanistan?
Okay, I love these little context clues left by the director. As soon as the FBI agent suggests that Thor received his training in Chechnya, Thor's eyes dart all over the place. He's recalling these memories, and you can see it in his eyes, just the insanity caused by just the mere mention of Chechnya, a former Soviet bloc country. A little bit later, a Shakespearean jester shows up again and gives us yet another bold statement about Thor's identity, which is impossible to ignore.
That still doesn't explain how he managed to tear through our security.
Steroids!
Our court jester does it again. He just directly states the real meaning of the movie, and we all glanced over it the first time around. Thank you very much for taking part in this skeptical analysis of Thor. I believe I've only shown you about 50% of the evidence I've uncovered, but we're already 10 minutes into a 5-minute video, so I'm going to leave it here. Thanks for watching Cinema Skeptic, and until next time, wake up, sheeple.